Okay, so this recording is going to cover Streamlit. We're going to play with that a little bit. In the Blackboard section, you have this, try this one here. Go ahead and click on that. That'll take you out here to Part-Time Larry. I have no affiliation with these guys. They're just, he does a really good job of explaining what you're doing, right? So if we look at his Streamlit, we're not going to actually do the whole video, but what he does demo is what his project can do. So if we look over here, see, he's going to pull up Streamlit. Just going to kind of forward along here. So the whole goal of his project is he wanted to build a financials data board. And I kind of showed you the one that I built a while back, all based off what he did here. The idea is that he has multiple kinds of dashboards all in one website. On the left, we pick out which dashboard we want. On the right, it does whatever displaying that we want. So this one is his charts dashboard, in which it goes and grabs the chart data for a bunch of different symbols, right? He's got a text entry box over here where they can type in the symbol. In the back end, it's going to go pull the information and build out, in this case, a matplotlib or a time series data table, right? So if we click a little bit further through here. Okay, so now we're going to get started up in Streamlit, and this is pretty much what we already did. So let's go ahead and fire up our PyCharm. And there is some pretty good tutorials out here on YouTube. So you guys are all engineers, you know how to go search YouTube to figure out how you want to do it, right?
That's some high level stuff, but yeah, I think
Working a search bar, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
how do you get started?
you'd be surprised, right? So there is one key piece that I want to show you here as we get to playing around. But if we go look at the output of what his code was, right? Remember, I checked out his GitHub code. He had it there. He's going to import a couple different functions here to go through and use some stuff. Now, in his case, he's using Tweepy, which is an API that allows you to deal with Twitter. So you can pull out Twitter comments and do things that you want to do in Python. So that is what Tweepy code is. He's using PsychoPG, which is a module that allows you to attach to a Postgre database. So you won't be able to follow his up exactly unless you want to set up a SQL database. We can shortcut that, by the way, if we set up a SQLite database. And we're going to talk about this more in the future. But if we look at SQLite 3 for Python 3, you're going to get this little link here, which is going to take you to a SQLite 3 database. And so to use this, all you have to do is import SQL 3 at the top. So we're just going to copy these two codes here. And this would take place in his, this will take place in his Postgre stuff. We would import SQLite 3 and we would set up our connection to whatever file name we wanted. You know, in this case, they're calling it tutorial DB. And then if we go back to those links I was just showing you, you would set up your cursor like this. So cur equals that, and that will set you up identical to what he has in this code here. So this line sets up the connection to the database. That's what this does. You could call this connection. And this one down here sets up the cursor to get you started there. That's what we're going to use as well. With that one is conduct cursor. Right, and this would be connection at this point. Something like that. So instead of using this code, you could use SQLite and use this code. The exact same rest is all going to be the same. All right. So what else does he have in his code? He's got an option, and this is for the sidebar select box. So notice we have ST. If you guys remember so far in Streamlit, Streamlit is our ST. Import Streamlit is ST. So we do streamlit.sidebar, and that sidebar is going to generate this content that was over here on the left-hand side. So let's look back at his code. This is our sidebar, and you notice this is removable. You could click the X and snap it back over. We want to build this sidebar. And so to build a sidebar, all you have to do is say st.sidebar. It's really, really simple, right? Then you say select box, and that's going to have the text of which dashboard. He's going to have the different options for that select box. And then this 3 is the referring to the index of the one that you want by default. So he wanted it to default to stock widths, or in this case, charts, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. So charts, that is what the 3 means over here. Okay. From there, he's going to set st.header, and that's going to be to whatever option he set. If we look back at his code, that is setting this as the header information up above. Options, the word options. It's really super simple, right? st options. Options is what we're pulling up here for what dashboard. Now he just uses a really simple if statement, and it's a pretty big if statement as it goes down, but it's checking to see which dashboard you chose. If you chose Twitter, well, then it's going to rewrite the stuff on the screen in order to show you the subheader of whatever username, password, etc. If you chose charts, it's going to show the sidebar text asking for a text input, which is what we saw in his video. See how it asks for the symbol over here on the left. It's going to grab that information. We can set things like max characters it's going to pull in or whatever else. And then it is doing a database lookup in order to get those values back. And it's setting that up into a pandas data frame. What else we got here? The Wall Street Bet one, which is also looking things up in the database to find data. We have the pattern one, which is also going to pull some information from the database. What else we got? Stockwitz was another one. So Stockwitz, what that one did is use their API in which we passed it a symbol name, and that passed us back JSON data, which then gave us the information about that. So that's the gist of it. We look at his config. This is where he sets up the connections to his database, where he sets up the connections to Twitter. And that's the only other file. The README is just explaining what the code is all about. All right. So if we wanted to set up a real basic Streamlit one, we could come into ours that we created. Let me open up that recent project, Streamlit app, this window. And we got to play a little bit with this before, where we set up a slider on the screen and then we could show X and all that. If we wanted to set up that sidebar, we would say st.sidebar. And then we could set up what we wanted in the sidebar. So if you guys remember, we had things like a select box. Right. And then we could feed it the options of what we wanted. So we'd have the text, pick a symbol. And this is if we had a list of them, which we do. So that, and then we're going to pass in a tuple of whatever our options are. So what were the symbols of what we had the other day? Does anybody remember? We had Microsoft, Apple, AAPL.
Yeah, AAPL. That screwed me up.
Or is it?
NTDOY
Yeah,
is
it's,
Nintendo.
NT what?
DOY.
DOY. Give me
OY.
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 NVDA.
NVDA.
I thought we had GMB.
Yep.
I remember that one very stupid.
All right. And which one of these do we want it to default to?
GME.
So what would I put here if I want GME? What
The
index is GME?
last one, so -1. Or, well, I
In
don't
this
know.
case, it wants the positive side.
No, what?
Oh, it's 4.
Four.
Sorry, my bad.
Okay.
Started 0.
All right. So based on what they give back for that, let's look at the code he had, which I should have kept open in another window. So let's go back to Streamlit boards. This time we're going to say new window.
Jason, I think you really need a second monitor for this.
I do. I really struggle.
There's one immediately available on the best.
I can't use it as a double monitor
Really?
and let you guys see it. Yeah.
You know, that does make sense. 'cause
When I take y'all to my new classroom upstairs, we can definitely do that.
take
Wait,
yo.
He's gonna have so many monitors, you won't have like face contact.
Wait, are you implying that we're moving up there? When it gets
Not this, man. No, we won't get there by the end of the semester. Okay. So if we look at what he did here, he has option equals, which means that we need to set our variable name, which I did not do. So we say option equals, right? Then based on that option, we can tell it what we want to do. So if option equals blah, right? It actually doesn't matter in our case for what we're going to do for this example. We're not going to have 13 dashboards. We're just going to have whatever comes in. So what we want to do is take that particular symbol. I don't know why this is giving me red. Okay. And we can go look up the current charts for those symbols out there, right? So if we look at stock symbol charts. And this will help me remember which one I was going after. Stock charts might work. Nope, we got to pay for that one. Keep going. There's one of these that I used to use, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it was called. Trading charts, maybe. That might work. And then this one, what was one of those options we had? NVDA. It's not getting me what I want. This is not the right one. Why in the world can I not think of my stock charts?
Probably been a minute since you've used them, yeah?
It's been a little bit, yeah. Trading view.
There we go.
Okay. Trading view, we enter in what symbol we want up here. And so as they say, you have Apple, right? Okay, so we type in Apple and we get this chart out of here. Okay. Well, that's cool and all, but how do we get that into our website? Because we want to get this chart. So if we come up here and we click on something like, I don't know, export shared data, or what's this do? This takes a snapshot, right? Grabs us an image, and let's hit the copy link.
Do we want this exact image or do we want to are we trying to recreate it?
This case, we're just going to jack the image. All right, so that gave us not quite what we wanted. But if we look up here at this URL, what do we have? Is there something to do with this URL that we can use Pythonically?
AAPL.
AAPL is the symbol, right?
Put in whatever symbol you want, and most likely it'll just kick you back the chart.
There you go. So instead of AAPL, we use NVDA. And we didn't break it,
Ha!
right?
Science.
So if we come back to our Streamlit and we say, based on that, whatever that option is, we can build our URL. So if we say URL equals this, and we would just make this an F statement, and instead of Apple, we would say this is our option. Something like that. And then based on that URL, we could go grab that. We could display that on the main screen, right?
Yeah.
So if we want to display that on the main screen,
We do get it.
we do. So we could do, well, let's just write it for now, right? Let's make it simple. st.write. Let's see if the all magic Streamlit does its magic, right? So does anybody remember how we start the Streamlit project?
Is it run?
Streamlit, run, main.py, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever we called our file. There it goes, fires it up. Cool. So we got a symbol over here and we got this text of whatever it was over here, right?
Okay.
And so if I click on Microsoft, it automatically changed and we got a link to go over there. Well, that's horrible. We actually want the graph there. So we're close. But we need to figure out how we can get this as an image, and we need to figure out how we can get it in such a way that
That it displays on our screen without just.
exactly, we want it like this, right? This was
Yeah.
pretty cool. So how else can we do that? Well, let's take a look here. Full screen, that's not gonna help us.
I don't know. Like it was.
I've never used it, but Jake, remember that
You have that code.
Yeah,
What
could-
grades and it grabs in.
Could you use like beautiful soup? I don't know if it's considered like in an element that you could grab, but I mean, that
It's a good question,
based on the
right?
fact that it's so interactive, I'm not.
So settings, I don't think so. So let's do a chart.
That's,
We want to tweet the image. What do we get there?
ah,
Just let me tweet it. No, don't tweet. Okay, so that when we go to actually try to get an image, it gives us something else goofy, right?
does. It did say download. I don't know if you can maybe poke at that a little bit. So, because it is obvious that there is implementation to turn it into an image.
Right. So let's see how he was going about pulling this stuff down. So he's grabbing charts and he dumped in those charts. How do you do that?
Bless you.
There's a point to having you use this video here.
Have a text.
Twitter logic, oh, looks good. Stockwitz, quite looking for that. There's old Twitters. Hey, there's a text.
Okay.
So here he wants to go get that one. He goes to FinViz, right?
Mhm.
And FinViz has something very similar. So let's try FinViz instead of the
Yeah.
trading one.
I think it might just be too interactive to grab.
FinViz. There we go. Stock screener. We come in, company ticker APL. Okay, well, that gets us something here like a quote. Let's see what else he's doing there. Oh, there we go. So on FinViz, if we right click this and we just want to get a screenshot of this, we need to get the chart, publish chart, right?
Mhm.
Publish chart gets us a URL, which has a couple other things. It's not quite what we want. This gives us a quote. We actually just care for the chart. That's why we follow directions.
Show the charts as well in mind, so that we can do them very quickly. And so what we can do is get format for FinViz, which we often use this. And so one way to get a FinViz chart is simple URL like that, and their site to get the.
Okay, so he has an option to just do a chart, which instead of here, we have quote. So let's do chart. Well, you know, there's our chart, right? And if we look right click, it's just an image.
There we go.
So what we can do is grab this URL, and in this case, we just need the Apple part, right? Let's grab charts. Let's go back to our dashboard. Dump in this. Throw an Apple there. Now, what's the problem we still have? Still just writing out a URL, right? So we need to figure out how in the world he writes out an actual image. Let's go look at that.
Format. So the way to do this, you go to FinViz, you can look up chart. I'm using the charts here. And there's a special URL format that you can use to get an image of this, and I've done this in previous videos. So I'm going to take this format to get the raw image. I'm going to do st.image,
Then you can.
and then instead of doing Apple there, I'm just going to substitute in the symbol. So I'll make
So if you notice, instead of ST right, we use
the image.
ST image. That's seriously how simple this Streamlit stuff is. So ST image is going to take the URL of an image and then go ahead and post it out. So now, if we rerun our app, we can now get the image for GME. We could go over to Microsoft and we get these nice little images, right? Except it doesn't like your Nintendo one.
Is it not?
Probably not on NASDAQ.
Whatever the Japanese one is.
Japanese market. Yeah.
Digress.
Cool. So what other kind of information would we want on our quote financial dashboard? Remember, you can close this sidecar over here, right? That's the nice part of having the sidebar. And this is if we hard coded the symbol instead of hard coding it, say we wanted somebody to type it in. What would that be like?
You would do this URL equals equals-
I don't know. I know like JavaScript has like it's just a base message box thing that you can type in. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a text input box, right?
Yeah.
So we could say my text equals st dot sidebar dot. There you go. These are all your options on sidebar, right? So in this sidebar, we come down here, we have a text input. Let's use that text input. And at this point, we need to give it the label of whatever we want. So we could say enter a symbol. And then it wants our value of whatever that is. By default, we could just leave it blank. So that looks good. We could specify the max characters, which is what? 4, right? So max chars equals 4. Key string, we're pretty good there. Type literal, I think we're good. Start with that. All right, let's comment this one out. And instead of this URL, actually that all works. We can still print the image and put that in there. Only this is no longer option. This is my text, right?
You just hit like enter.
Control C.
Oh,
Yep, just Control C to break out and rerun it. So now we have nothing over here, so we should probably put something in by default, right? If it's 0 or blank, we should do something. We have AAPL, hit enter,
There
and
you
now get
go.
the chart. So it's super simple. And then if you guys remember on the Streamlit website, there's a bunch of tips for like headers and stuff. So you can make things nice and clean. So for example, in our main program, we might do something like st.header. My cool financial dashboard. St dot. What else we got? We got header, text input, right? There's all sorts of stuff that we can do, right?
Ooh.
So let's just do right. Where my bank goes to die. Right? Because I
Right.
think I'm gonna make money, but I ain't making money. So if we run that, simple change. Or instead of not where my bank, it's where my money goes to die, right?
yeah, right.
There you go. So now we got a cool little dashboard. We put this in. And we can get whatever we want over there.
Mhm.
So we just keep building this dashboard till you get what you want. So what would be cool besides just the graph that you guys have already played with?
Like list the highest price and lowest price on the table.
Yeah, some kind of table data that we would like to get, right? And you guys remember how we did that before? What do we use? Anybody remember?
Wi-Fi.
Y Finance, right? So we could import Y Finance. And I know everybody remembers how to use that. So,
Something dot describe.
so pip install, yeah, that got you all your stats of that, right?
Yeah.
Which was of the whole chart. But to remember how to use Y Finance. There we go. So we need to import that. We pass a ticker and we got all the stock info. So now let's copy and paste that into our little app. Something like that. And notice the way we formatted this one is it was whatever we set up. So we could say something like that down here. Where stock. Right, instead of this, my stock equals this, and whatever we typed in here is now going to be our option. We're going to go back to our select box. Well, now let's keep it with my text. Okay, And if we wanted to get all the information out, we could just simply do a st.write, and we would just use our stock.info. YF is finance, that needs to go away. There we go. And this should at least get us some information about our stock. There we go. And notice we were getting 404 errors because it was immediately trying to pull. So we might want to write something in our code to test, and if we're not getting it, then we should
Yeah.
not do it, right?
Yeah.
But like an enter button, like a go button, maybe.
For up here.
Like have like
You could.
put a program for user input come before it goes out to poll.
Or you could,
Like a default.
we could put something default in there. Yep. So like here, if we wanted to default, actually that default was this where we had empty. We could just throw AAPL in there.
There we go.
And that would go ahead and do it. So we save that. Notice we got a 404 error when it tried to do that off the Streamlit and off of Y-Finance. So we could do a try and accept to at some point when it tries to go grab that. If it doesn't work, then fail it out. Let's see if this worked like we wanted, where it actually just did it by default with Apple. There you go. So if we look at what that did is, remember that all we're doing here is dumping the .my info, which the way this formats text is you get a ton of information all the way down here. All right, and this was all JSON data. You could actually minimize this and not see it. So it's cool within Streamlit is it doesn't just dump it on the screen. You can actually adjust it. You can copy out key pieces of this information if you wanted to, etc. But if you wanted maybe just this long business summary to describe what this stock ticker is, you could just pull that out. So if we wanted to just do that, right, we found that one called long business summary. Let's do stock ticker info, long business summary. I want to say that if I save this, I may not have to actually cancel it. It's been a while. Yeah, we just refresh. So we don't have to cancel it every time. Okay, so now we got our stock ticker of whatever everything is, how it works. So .info got us that, but what we wanted was our financials back, right? So let's go back and see if we can get our financial images out of here. And you wanted what? Historical info. What do you think we want to get?
Probably like,
I think that's what you were trying to get before, right?
I don't know how much information's on that graph, but you could do like a start of the week, this price, end of the week, this price, start of the day, this price. You could do daily.
You want to do like a weekly thing?
Yeah, you do.
So let's look up history in this API, and we should be able to get some information if you guys remember how to do that. So let's go back up here, go to our homepage, and they had a wiki, if I recall. Yeah, there we go. The ticker wiki and our history, and there's our intervals. So you could do 1M, which is a month, max of 7 days within the last 30 days, right? So 1 WK would get us a week. So let's get a history of a week. So let's pull that out here. And this would be our stock dot, or no, add that out the other direction. So hist, this would be our stock history. We get out 1 month, and that would give us back a data frame. And so all we have to do is send that out. So st.write. Let's do hist, and let's see what we get back out of that. There we go. So we got a real quick data chart that shows all the dates up there, the open, high, lows, closed volumes, all that between. We can actually pop this out and see it full, so we can see all the chart data. And that's without us manipulating anything, right? If we actually went through and manipulated it, then we would see all sorts. I clicked on the wrong button. Like you said, we could just grab the high and close for a certain amount of dates. We wanted to chart this, right? We could sit there and try to chart it out, or st dot. What do you want? Or a line chart?
Sure.
And just pass in hist.
Gotta work.
Oops, it won't hit if I hit play.
Or you put cart instead of chart.
Yeah, that would also fail. There we go, line chart. Terminal. And so now all we have to do is save. Again, we don't have to close it every time like we were. Just come back here and hit refresh. And now we get a nice line chart. Notice that it's all labeled the way we wanted. The actual total values that we had up here, which in this case, it's charting what? Volume overall, right? So if we wanted it to chart specifically on something else, we could come down and chart it. But it's that simple of just saying, no, line chart works.
It just doesn't know for it.
st.line chart. And it will convert it over from a pandas frame to a map plot, and then actually convert map plot right into the screen. You don't have to know how to do all that.
Jason, is this recording?
It is, yep.
Okay, I'm not here today.
No worries.
I'm not here today. I'm just
No worries.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Let's see here. Anything else you guys can think of we would want to do with this? So how many of you guys are interested in doing something like this for your final project?
Like specifically
Something
stocks? or-
specifically with time series data, which is like what this is.
Kind of, I'm like,
Kind of.
there's a API found for this game of play RuneScape, and like it
Yep.
gets back to the brand exchange, which is literally just like the marketplace. And so
Gotcha.
you can like flip money on the market, so I kind of want to try and like pull in like the best, I guess, things that you can flip. So I'm kind of leaning towards something like this to pull back the data and have like the specific items I'm tracking and stuff on the side, so.
I mean, I might, but for me, it'd just be, I mean, I do other things, but for me, this would just be like different play times.
Right.
Like you played this much this week, this much this week.
Yep.
But,
Yeah, so you could just build a dashboard, a real fast dashboard of what you played, what stats and that kind of stuff. There again, it's really super simple to build with this, right? With Flask and Django, it's going to be a little more complicated because you're going to get more into HTML, CSS, things like that. But you can do a whole lot more with it, right? You can build entire web apps of whatever you wanted to do. So it's really the scope of your project as to which you choose and why you would choose that. All right. Anybody got any other questions on Streamlit? Again, the Streamlit, the main thing is you go out there to streamlit.io. And they have their documentation, all of their components that you have out here. So you can use like charts, and you guys can see how to do different charts. I think they now have some AI stuff built into it, which they did not before. So yeah, how to build a chatbot directly. How to build some other stuff in there. It was really, really cool what it would work in. So yeah, building your own version of ChatGPT. You could do that real quick in Streamlit.
Jason's like, so what'd you do your finals? Well, I made a sentient AI.
If I come out here to the API reference, this will tell you again how you can build different text options, latex, all your data elements, everything we were just talking about inside of there. That one's great to use, but if you need a real quick down and dirty version of that, go back here and on the main Streamlit page at the very bottom, right above that, you're going to see app somewhere in here. There it was in the Streamlit cheat sheet. It was a great one that showed you how to do all the different commands in little blocks. So you can just copy over and connect out. So as simple as copy and pasting at that point. You can add different widgets and stuff to the sidebar. You just simply put all that in. And then if you want to know what widgets, you come down here to widgets and you grab all that. You can do things like progress status and things like that. So you could do like here, when we know we're grabbing all of our graphs, we could do st.balloons. Oops, like that. I don't know why I would use balloons, but I'm using balloons. Wherever our program is here, refresh. And so now after it's pulled all the data, it sends a bunch of balloons up, right?
Da-da-da.
So that may be like if you're sending back to your a form or filled out, right? And the server got request, tell it to run SD balloons and the user gets some kind of feedback that
Yep.
there's data was submitted.
It's successful.
Right. There's a bunch of different ones you can use. You can also use like error warnings, info, success. This is going to be very bootstrappy is really what's coming in there. I don't know what toast is, but we can figure it out. See what toast does. Got too many windows open now. Do the toast. Right. What toasted? Oh, I can see it up here. It's this line up here, changing
Oh.
color and rotating
Oh.
through.
Ooh.
That's pretty.
That's such a
Not what I expected
like-
when the toad.
That's what they call it.
That was into like balloons or something.
it's just balloons, but it's just toasted.
All right.
That is a lot.
So that was the whole goal. You guys can go through and pull that out. You can customize different things. You can do control flow. So if you wanted to stop every code that was running at that point, there's an ST stop for that. I've used that one before. Let's see, tabs, display. If you want to display code, you can just echo. So you can use echo and then it will just sit there and print all your code out. Great for debugging, right? It's like logging.debug that we were using before, but it just spits it out on the website. Just trying to think if there was your images for ST header, audio, video. You can send those data streams out. There was all the interactive widgets. That's what I wanted you to see. So you can do color pickers, camera input, download buttons. Like you were saying earlier, we could just add a button. So st.button, hit me. If that button was set, do something. All right. Well, that's what I got for today. Honestly, it was just to get you guys to see how quick and easy it is, where to get access to the documentation so that if you guys go off and play with it, go build yourself some kind of dashboard this weekend. You know, don't spend 3 hours on it. Just and you can, I'm not telling you can, but go seriously take about 15-20 minutes, see if you can build out a cool little dashboard for something you wanted to know. Or take what you did in homework assignment 1 or 2 and build a quick web app with Streamlit for it.
Okay.
Which should be pretty simple. You just go grab your code instead of sending it to charts with matplotlib, just st write or st line chart or st bar graph, whatever you want. So like here we did line chart. I'm curious what it would do in a bar graph
Well, it was doing
or chart.
volumes, so it'll just be like volumes in like. Paragraph one.
I don't know. It's really a good question.
It's strange that we would think.
Yeah, and so
I guess it was everything, but volumes was so big that it made everything flat.
and I think that's ultimately what was going on there. Yep.
Good volumes is like 6 million, so.
Barbart. Sure. I want a Barbart. Yeah, there we go. That one's a little more meaningful. We can at least see the volume and everything out of there.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to drop the volume column so that we could actually see everything else, that would make more sense too.
Mhm.
Which I think over here, if we just went to hist, and you're probably gonna have to do more there, be like open. I think it's a full data frame, so you would have to specifically tell it, but you could do open. Let's see if it does it right. There you go. So there's your charts for just open.
I see if there's a little bit more work with it, because it doesn't really.
Yeah,
Line
bar
up.
charts are not a great option for this one, right? So we should probably do something like a line chart. But what's nice is it's as simple as testing it, hit refresh.
Yeah, you type 4 letters in.
Exactly, right? So now we can see this, we can zoom in, you can zoom out, you get all your charts going through. And of course, the days that are non-trading days, you're not gonna see stuff. What you would probably want to do is massage this data a little bit more before you go and chart it, obviously. But now we have a real quick Apple financial dashboard. And you could probably stream right into, say, Alpaca, right? So for those of you that want to play with financials, you have Alpaca stocks. And that is this one here called alpaca.markets. And this is specifically made for you to build your own stuff. So what's cool is you come in here, you sign up, it's free. At least the last time I used it, and you can get an API key on how to pull it through. And they have some examples on doing that with Python. And then you can get a fake account. Well, it's not a fake account. You get an account, but it's a test account. And then you can load it up with $1 million and then just start trading stuff if you want. So, you know, it looks like you can do crypto now and some other stuff they had. What was handy was, for me, it was mostly to get the market data. But I think that's changed in terms of how they do that on price. So depending on how many requests you have and how much they charge you to pull that all out. At one point it was free. I don't know if it's still free. So. All right. That's honestly it, guys. It was just to give you a little brief overview on Streamlit. For those of you that want to dive more deep in it, being an advanced class, we obviously have weeks at the end during your final project to dive deeper in if you got questions. We will definitely need all the time for Flask and Django. Those are some heavy ones. Django could take a whole 16 weeks if we really wanted to. Like there's a lot there. Okay, stop the recording.